I started the recording. Yes. Uh, uh, don't have any query recording this? Okay. Yes, we are conduct two other workshop also, R1, R2, R3, and there are many workshops. We have the R1, which is the R foundation, what we are conducting this time. You are in this workshop. The R2 would be the intermediate workshop, R intermediate, where we will cover the data visualization, data preparation, and inferential analysis. That is the hypothesis testing and everything. And there is the then it starts from R3, R advanced. R advanced 1, R advanced 2, R advanced 3, R advanced 4. There are R up to R6, we could say that, in which we covers in the R advanced the predictive modeling or the machine learning starts from there. Okay, just like a linear regression analysis and predictive modeling, and the logistic regression, decision tree, random forest, segmentation and clustering, and with along with this regression analysis, linear or logistic, we also study what the lasso and ridge and elastic net regression analysis along with this. And then after random forest, and we have so many other algorithm we study, naive Bayes, SVM. Uh, there's some other also extreme gradient boosting algorithm we use for boosting the model, and there's so many other things we will study there. So in the different workshop we cover it. So let's we start with some. I would like to explain you something about. Are you getting this screen on your window? So here you see I have shown so many tools on the upper side of this. So there is a Python, Advanced Excel, R is there, SAS, SPSS. So there are so many tools we could use for this data analytics and data science purpose, for the also for the statistical analysis. These are the tools. R doesn't mean that R is data analytics, or Python doesn't mean Python is data analytics. These are the tools. With the help of these tools, we could perform the analysis in a short time, short duration, and more accurate. We could do the analysis. There are some other tools like the Hadoop and Spark, which we and the MySQL. This is which are related to the database, and the Hadoop is for the big data, and Spark's real-time big data. We use it. And we could filter something in the Hadoop and the Spark also. In the MySQL also, we could filter the data. We could do the descriptive analysis with these tools also. You see there is a Tableau and Power BI, which is for the data visualization. For the dashboard purpose, we use this. On the lower side, you see I have shown you the descriptive analysis, inferential analysis, predictive analysis, perspective analysis. I will explain these all things to you in this session. What is descriptive, what is inferential, what is predictive, and what is perspective analysis. So we'll cover this all. And you see, we will cover so many things. Our all workshop, we see the univariate analysis we cover in this session. The next session we cover the data visualization, data manipulation, and the correlation analysis. We will perform little bit here, but the most of the part will be we will perform with the inferential analysis. Hypothesis testing is there, a priori is there. Then K means that is a segmentation clustering. Nearest neural network we will see. It is not here in the advanced also. That is the different course we run for deep learning. Okay, so there we teach about the tensor and everything, the keras, whatever. That is not included in this R up to now, because the deep learning we prefer to train through Python. Okay, R is not much compatible with these deep learning models. Okay, so we prefer to work with Python. So there are many other analysis that we conduct some workshops weekly, 1 day workshop for 2 hours or 3 hours as per the length of the workshop, like the sentiment analysis if we have to do, what algorithm we could use there, because we will cover all the algorithm in the R or R6 or whatever we have, the 6R workshops, different workshops. We will cover all the algorithm there. But in sentiment analysis, what algorithm we could use there? Maybe one, more than one. The multi algorithm we could use there. Krishna Prasad ji, I will tell you about this Python and R, which one is better. Just I am explaining it. I am coming on that. And there is a churning analysis. Churning analysis we use in the telecom industry or also in the hospital and the healthcare center. The meta-analysis, we work in the academic side, the research papers, there are many research papers, then most of the persons have done research on the particular topic. Then there is no need to you do the same thing. So then you could conduct the meta-analysis on the all the research papers which have been published on the same topic in the same study area. And there is a pandemic analysis also, like the COVID-19. These are market basket analysis, supply chain analysis, customer segment analysis. This all we will see. There are different workshops for this 3 hours, 2 hours, and the small workshop we conduct time to time. And we give the whole knowledge of this, what algorithm you could use, how you could do it with the real data sets. Okay, so this we perform there. The Krishna Prasad ji asking about the Python and R, which one is best? Because R programming language has been developed by the mathematicians and the statisticians, and it is the world's easiest programming language. We could perform good analysis for the structured data sets in R. Structured and unstructured, what does it mean? I will explain you. Structured data sets which are in the Excel sheet, like the format of the data set is like Excel sheet, the MySQL, the row and columns are there. And there we get the numeric, the numbers and the categories are there, some text. So that is our structured data set. If you have to work with the structured data set, R is better for that. R is better up to the machine learning. You can do the work on R. But when you enter in the deep learning, suppose you are doing the making some predictive model on the image classification, or you are making a chatbot, then you must have requirement of that Python sort of tool, okay, which is very compatible with unstructured data format. So when you want to become a data scientist or you have some technical background in this field, then it would be easy to go with Python. Okay. In the Python, there is various data types in the Python, because the Python basics has the different data types, and the arrays has a different data types, and the pandas, if you use the pandas library for the data manipulation, there are some other data types, and we have to convert one data type to other data type whenever we have to use that particular package or the library. And we must have the knowledge of the OOPS also. OOPS means the object-oriented programming procedure. What we should know about this knowledge about OOPS, and the for loops, and we should be strong with this all also. So it takes much time than R to learn. And it doesn't mean that you could not learn the Python. Python is also the second easiest language in the world, after R. So you could easily learn it, but it will take much more time. It will take just double time or the duration of 3 times than R for learning this, for understanding this. So it is little bit technical. Okay, so it take little more time. So I think you are all now clear about the R and Python use. Yeah. Okay. So let's we continue. Let's we see what is statistics. So we see, because wherever the data there is statistics, More than one is called the statistics. Okay, there is data. One is not data. More than one, if you are getting something, that is the data. So statistics, if we see the general definition of statistics, we see that the statistics is the science and art of collecting, classifying, computing, analyzing, interpreting, and presentation of data and its insights. I explained this definition to you. Statistics is a science as well as art also. We collect the data from various sources. It may be, we could collect the data through the online internet, through the internet, and through our direct, we could collect the data from surveying the things. Okay. And we could collect the data in the secondary format from some other sources. And then we classify the data. That is very important. Classifications of the data. So then we classify the data. After classifying, we compute the statistics, whatever we require. What is the statistics basically? Statistics are the whatever the sample we have got, we find out some uh, type of measure of central tendency, measure of dispersion, correlation, whatever the things we study in the statistics. These are all called the statistics. We measure, compute the statistics. Mean is the statistics. Standard deviation is the statistics. Median is the statistics. So whatever we compute with the sample data, it is called the statistics. And that is statistics we compute and we get some result in a numeric form, because data is always give us the result in a numeric form. So then we analyze the result, and after analyzing, we interpret in it in a word, and some words statement, and finally we present the data, its results or its insights in the form of table or in the form of statement or in the form of graphs and this all. So this is all about statistics. Now here the two things, the science and art. So I will explain why it is science and why it is an art. Can someone find the mean of this for me? Yeah. Please you try to find out the mean of this data, the small data set I have given to you.
6.4.
6.4, correct. Someone else? Yeah, you could try it also in the chat box. Yeah. Yeah, Bhagyasri, you are raising hand. You unmute yourself and you want to ask or you want to tell the result. 6.4, okay, sir. It was by mistake. Okay, no problem. No problem. It is 6.4. So I think that you are all getting the same mean. Huh? There is no, it doesn't, there is no effect of the experience, who has the more experienced person having the statistic getting the better mean than other. Okay. So it is a science, because anybody knows the formula of the mean, or if we don't conduct any calculation mistake, we'll get the same mean. You all get the same mean. So it is a science, because already we get the universal result. Okay. Similarly, as you see in the science, if we mix the acid and base, we get salt and water. If anybody mix it, get the same thing. Nobody will get the alcohol out of it. No? The same thing is here. So experience doesn't work here in the calculation, in the computation of the statistics. So it is science. Okay. Why it is an art? I will explain. So look at this. It is a glass of water on your screen, and you have to interpret it. And what? How do you interpret this? Does it help to interpret it? Yeah. It is half full. Delay. Correct. Half full. Half empty. Okay. Half glass of water. Okay. The sum of you told the right thing. In statistics, you see the studies, whenever we get the results, we get so many things. It shows the so many things. When I apply the statistics somewhere, you get the result. A result shows us so many things, but hide the main important thing sometimes, behind it. and we have to judge it. We have to diagnose that particular thing. We have to search it out. What thing has been hidden behind the result? When you are able to get that thing, then you could correctly interpret the things. Okay. Suppose we have to analyze uh, the uh, we have to test a hypothesis which is related to the marks of mathematics in two sections of standard 10. Section A and section B are there, and there is significant difference in the marks of the students. We have tested the hypothesis. We have got this thing. We have got the p-value less than 0.05 at the 95% confidence level, and we got the output that there is significant difference in the marks of the mathematics. Because the inference and analysis is the study of cause and effect. So then we have to search out the cause of this. So we have seen that there is the students of section B are performing better in other subjects except mathematics. But in mathematics, gradually the marks are getting down of the students. And if we see as per the point of the teacher, the same teacher is teaching in the both the sections. So there is no significant difference in the teacher, or in as well as the students are performing better in the other subjects. It means that there is no significant difference in the students of the section A and section B also. Then what is the reason why the marks of the mathematics are so much lower than the other subjects? So it has not been given by the results to us. Okay, results are just shown us there is significant difference. But why it is the cause we have to search out. Then some extraneous things we have to discuss there. That is like a timetable if we see. So in the timetable somewhere we get that the math lecture is after lunch. So it will affect the performance of the students also. They could not concentrate in the class properly. After lunch, the next to lunch period, then nobody will able to pay attention properly. And that's the thing. So it may be like that, or it may be after sports period. So these are the few reasons we have to search it out. Sometimes the results does not say. Here is the same way. Some of you have told that just a moment. Some of you have told that it is half. Change the color. It is half full. Or some say that it is half empty. Okay, this is the interpretation by most of you. Some has given the right interpretation also. This glass is full. Half with water and half with air. This will be the correct interpretation of this glass of water. Okay. So in this way, the interpretation always requires some experience. If you have the experience, then you could interpret the things in a better way. So interpretation somewhere requirement of the experience. So wherever the experience is required, it is an art. And in art, you have to make the portrait of someone, then you have to do most of the practice, you know, with the paintings and this and that. In the music also, you require some practice when you have to play some instruments, musical instruments, then you have to practice on it. Then you could play in a well manner. Okay, so it requires some experience. So this is the thing what I have explained you. Now uh, we see the classification of analysis now. What is analysis? Because we are going to do the analysis. Either it is statistical analysis or data analysis. So we see what is the difference in analysis. Analysis refers to breaking a whole into a separate component for individual examination. We here you see it is the definition of the one-line definition I have given to the analysis. It refers to the breaking a whole, whatever you have the process, into its separate components for individual examinations. Like the descriptive analysis, we have the inferential analysis, we have predictive analysis, we have perspective analysis, we have. If we talk about the descriptive analysis, you see there I have written what is. So whatever the data you have in your data set, you have to come out with some outputs from that. That is called the descriptive analysis. How many males are there? How many children are there? How many males are there? How many females are there? If you have a gender column, we could also take some other like the cities. You have the name of the cities. How many from Mumbai and from Delhi, from Calcutta, and so on. So this is a descriptive analysis. Also, some statistics we may involve there, like the mean of the students of section A and the mean marks of the students of section B and C. These are all the SD also we could involve there. So these are all descriptive analysis. Whatever we have, we are talking about that either through the statistics or through the percentage or whatever the frequency we are talking about it. Okay. Second is the inferential analysis, which is why it is. If there is a difference in the marks of a particular subject of the students of section A and section B in a particular class, then if there is significant difference in their marks, then we have to see why it is, as I explained earlier also. So this is only about the hypothesis testing. In the statistics, we could analyze anything except truth. Okay, we could analyze the truth. Why? Because when we analyze the hypothesis, when we test the hypothesis, we just see whether it is accepted or rejected. We could not say it is true or false. Even the judge in a court does not say you are a murderer, you are guilty or not guilty. Okay, so nobody could say about it is truth or no, it is not true. So nothing. There is no procedure, no mechanism, no machine, no algorithm which proves the truth. Okay. And third one is the predictive analysis. There you see I have written the what will be. It is the some prediction we are conducting here. If we have the data of last 50 years of a certain geographic area of the rain and the crop production of that particular region, and you know the current year rain data, how much rain was this year. So then you could predict the output of the this year crop production if you have prepared some machine learning model on that. So that is the prediction. So now more thing I would like ask to you that what is the difference between forecasting and prediction? Can someone explain it? Yeah. Yeah. What is the difference between forecasting hmm, and prediction? After we are going to study about the data analytics. Some in your words, what is the forecasting? What is the prediction? In your words, you explaining what you understand by the forecasting or by the prediction. Yeah. I want to know from you. Bhavya, can you explain it? What is forecasting? Gautam, can you explain what is forecasting and what is prediction? Can you? Yeah, please someone try to explain it. Or you could write on the chat box also. Yeah, Mr. BKS, can you give some light on this? The difference between forecasting and prediction?
Thank you. So basically, prediction means it's based on some assumption, so which might be true or might not be true. But
Hmm.
however, like forecasting means it's calculated based on the some estimate values.
Hmm.
For example, forecasting the weather based upon the conditions of the weather indicators,
Hmm.
and so which is most likely to be true.
Okay, nice. Thanks. Prediction based on the assumption, forecasting based on the estimation. है it does mean. Okay. And Krishna Prasad, prediction is predicting based on existing. And Udit says that forecasting means something is happening, but we are just telling it before. And the Krishna, forecasting in future, how predicted value behaves. Unmute, okay. And in prediction, Shubham says we take other attributes of that time too, like we predict weather based on some other factors. In forecasting, we don't consider, we just forecast using the dates time, like, okay, correct. So, and Udit, yeah, the prediction means something is not present, it is just the imagine. Okay, most of you are very near to that. And uh, Preeti, Gautam, forecasting is nothing but an exploration of the past, whereas the prediction is subjective, refers to an upcoming event which might or might not happen in the future. Okay, so I will explain you the major difference between the prediction and forecasting. Both are based on the historic data. Both sort of model we produce in the perspective of machine learning. I will explain this thing. It is based on the historic data. You make a model through that historic data, whatever you have last previous data, you make a model. But before 5 years, you see that the weather department forecasts some weather. So it says that there is a rain tomorrow. We see there is a sunny day. Next day would be the sunny day. That was the forecasting. Okay. If they says there is a sunny day, we see that there is a rain before 5 to 6 years. Now they are doing weather prediction. A prediction about the storm will come on that particular coastal area in this at this time of range, or it happens. We have seen in the last few years, 1 and 2 years, they have predicted this thing, and we have got the same happened at that particular moment of time and a range of time. So that is a prediction. Okay. Now the weather department is predicting something. It is not forecasting. Okay. Why? What is the difference between prediction and forecasting? Now I explain you. In the forecasting, you have the only one variable. Just like in the share market, you see the sales price of a particular company shares. And we see the trend of that sales price in the last few years data. And according to that trend, we make some forecasting. Okay. We don't have other variable. We don't input anything there. On the behalf of that particular previous data, we forecast something in the future. But in predictive model, What we do, we use the previous data, but we have some other variables also, factors also, which affect that thing. Okay. According to that, we predict something. So the weather department now have so many data through the satellites, where the storm is now at present, and what is the direction of it, what is the speed of wind, everything they know. And as per the model, they have the calculation. They do the calculation through the mathematical model, and then finally they predict the things. So that is the prediction. Prediction is much more near to the, we could say, the reality. Forecasting, the near forecasting are better, but if you talk about the forecasting for a long period, then it will be so much fluctuation there in the forecasting. Okay, it may be fluctuate too much. So that is the difference, basic difference. In the prediction, we required some current input, then we could find out the prediction. But in forecasting, we don't require any current input. From the historic data, we predict something. Like a COVID-19, if I have to predict how many confirmed cases would be tomorrow, I could predict. I could predict it. Okay. So that is very easy to predict through the time series, what cases would be tomorrow. Okay. Or after 1 week, or after the end of this August, I could predict it. Very, very easy. Okay. So that is the forecasting, and that is not a prediction. Basically, it is a forecasting. I am making some forecasting about the confirmed cases would be this much in the this that in India or whatever in the world. Okay. So there is some pandemic analysis we could conduct through the R also. Okay. But at present, nobody is doing this pandemic analysis like the ACIR or SIR. We are not conducting this because we are not getting the real data. We are not getting the real data. It is the data is not edge to much edge optimal data we have. So there are some gaps in the data which is required to do the proper pandemic analysis. So just the people are doing the time series analysis on this, and a time series model they are using, and they're just predicting how many will be deceased or how many will be confirmed cases in the next few years. Okay. So I would like to show you the power of R. Okay. So I just open my R, then I will show you what sort of analytics you could do in R. Then we will come to our original topic later. So I'll show you the COVID-19, some forecasting we could do through this. So just a moment, I will explain you that. I do this inference analysis I have done on COVID, forecasting with COVID. Okay. We'll show you a few things I want to show you here. Just a moment. Just have to use something more. There 206. Getting some actual numbers, actual length for actual and predict. That I show you because I'm working for a very long time on this data set. There may be some changes occurred in the data set. Forecast. 75 number 266 we have right here 266 define and the total population. Just a minute, I try it. It's 266. Perform the whole thing again. Then I make this. See, this is the June, and this is for July. Okay, I show you something more. Now you see this, what I want to show you. You can see here, it is my prediction. This line is my prediction line, and this is the actual data. It is the data of
The screen is not visible.
Okay. Sorry. You should explain me that. If you told me, so I could share it before also. So this is the COVID-19 data set I have. It is the real-time data set. I have fetched through the different APIs. I will show you those APIs also. Okay. So you see APIs, I have got these all APIs, and through these APIs, I am getting this data and merging these APIs. And finally, I have done this analysis, and it is the confirmed cases analysis in India. Okay. So it is the last data set from the 14 I had. Okay. It is the 14, 20, 20. Okay. Actual was that, and the predicted was this. So it is showing the actual and predicted figure. It is a very interactive graph. We could see in this way. I think why it is only up to that 14. It should up to the 17 we should have, but it is giving me only 14. I see what is the problem with that. Why I'm taking the real-time data. These are the 206 observations we are getting only now. We require 266. We are getting 206 observations only. Okay. I think there is some. We should have 206 observations. So we have run up to the end profit. End profit is where? Okay, confirm and forecast DSY, and this we have run it. Okay, we are getting this much. Now I use this also. Take little time. If I zoom it, Now I am getting the data up to 14 only. But this is my prediction for the future. So I will see what's the problem with there, why the data is not coming properly. It may be here in the somewhere mistake. Now we see in this. Just a moment. It is now 17 August. Okay. It is the 18th. Now it is the latest data. And my prediction for the 17th, last day, my prediction was 2.55 into 10 to the power 6, 25 lakhs. I had an exponent, but actually I got 27. Okay. So that is the thing. It is the now the overfitting data is here. So it is my time series model I have prepared for it. So this is the power. Or one more thing I will show you. So one more thing. Because it is very heavy data set. Okay, so this is what we can do with R. Okay, so we could read through the APIs online. Forecasting is used for time series data. Okay. So it is all about the predictive. I will explain you now the what is predictive. We may have more than one factor also. The factor which is the rain is an independent variable, and the crop production is a dependent, which depends on the rain. Similarly, we have more than one independent variables. Okay. It doesn't mean that the only rain affects the crop production. There is a soil quality, seed quality, pesticides, fertilizers, sunlight, irrigation. These all things also affects the crop production. It may also impact on the crop production. So we have the independent variables more than one. So what is the difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence? I will explain you here. Machine learning basically an infant, a small child, and artificial intelligence is an adult having some experience in the knowledge. As we have learned through the experience or so many things in our life, or still we are learning, the same way machine learns. Okay. Because we learn through the unsupervised, supervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement learning algorithm. Human being also learn in the same way. As I explained, a small child, the small child parents explain him, this is your uncle, this is your aunt, this is your grandfather, and this is your maternal uncle, and shows the picture of some animals and flowers and fruits and says it is lion, it is tiger. And in this way, they explain the things. Okay, it is the supervised learning. And so some object, and this is door, this is bottle, and these all are the supervised learning. Suppose if a child is on the floor, there is a hot utensil, water of milk is kept on the floor, and the child came and touch it. The next time he will touch that utensil of the hot milk, once he touched it unwillingly, and next time will he touch or not? So he will not touch. Obviously, he will not touch next time because he learned himself. Because it is the unsupervised learning. Okay, so that is the unsupervised learning. And the reinforcement learning, if we give a pen to a child, he tries to keep it in mouth. Then we warn him, we request him, you know, and sometimes we beat him. Please, you don't take this in mouth, it may harm you. And this way, this is the reinforcement learning. The same algorithm we use in the machine. Through this algorithm, machine learns. Okay. So now, what is the difference between predictive and prospective, or we could say the ML and AI? You see, what will be is the predictive and what should be is the prospective. Suppose you have trained a model for the crop production, having some independent variables like soil quality, seed quality, rain, whatever. Yeah. And you have got, there would be a production of crop production would be this year like it would be X metric ton. Crop production would be this year, current year. And from the government side, there is a demand of Y metric ton for fulfilling the requirement of the domestic use of that crop, and for the for also for the foreign exchange export and this all. So they require Y metric ton. But there is a big gap between this demand and supply. So how could you minimize this gap? So when you have prepared some model and its model is now matured more, so it will suggest you what soil of quality you have, or that particular quality, what type of seed you have to use. It will show you the seed quality as per the soil quality. है ना? As per the some other factors also, it will like this quality seed you have to use in your crop. Pesticides, in the various diseases, it will recommend you the pesticide. It will recommend you the irrigation frequency of irrigation as per the weather. Okay, so it will recommend you time to time each and everything during your crop. Then you could minimize, you could increase the crop production. So that is the artificial intelligence. It is suggesting you, it is recommending you. As you have seen that the recommending in the Netflix, it recommends you, in the Amazon, it recommends you some products. Okay, there is AI which is working in this way. So same thing we could apply in the agriculture field. There is too much potential in the agriculture field of AI. Okay. So this is one example. What is the difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence? Okay. Krishna Prasad, I will explain this in our advanced courses about the supervised and supervised algorithm. The supervised algorithm is where we don't have, we have one dependent variable. That is basically the simple way I want to explain you. You have some dependent variable, then it is a supervised. When you don't have any dependent variable, only the independence, then it is unsupervised learning. Time series, linear regression, logistic regression, decision tree, random forest, all are supervised learning. But clustering and segmentation, if you see the k-means, if you see the hierarchical clustering, these are all unsupervised learning. Okay, so this is the basic difference I have explained to you, Krishna Prasad, and the detail I will explain you later. Supervised learning, problem and sample data both are passed as input. Yeah, both are passed as input, but in the supervised there is a target variable you have, which is called a dependent variable, or the response variable you have. But in unsupervised there is no response variable. Okay, so that is unsupervised. Is there any doubt now, Krishna? So Let's we start our session with the classifications of data. A response variable means dependent variable, yes. Just a moment. I rough this first. Okay. So let's we start about the classifications of the data. Classifications of data. There are various classifications of data. As you have seen that there is a primitive, non-primitive, or the built-in data types in the programming languages. But we will not discuss here that. There is a, according to source, we know that the primary and the secondary data. Okay. We will not also discuss this thing here. We will discuss only three classifications of the data here as per our requirement. Okay. Because the most of the things you know that the according to source, primary data, secondary data, these all already you know that. So the first classification we will see according to work. According to structure, you know that the unstructured is structured data. And we know that I explained the structured and unstructured. Okay. Images are unstructured data. Text speech is a unstructured data. And so that is unstructured data. So now according to work, we see there are 5 to 6 types of classifications of data. According to works. According to works, we see it is for the numeric data set. Okay. It is for numeric, not the categorical one. In the numeric data, we have a raw data. We have discrete data. And we have continuous data. Okay. Now I explain you. We have a data in which we have one age, column of age, and one more column we have. Maybe the column of, you could say that we have column like one age and one income. We could take some other column also. Some discrete column I require. And we say a column of number of rooms. Okay. This we have. Age is a column where we get the 18 years age, we get a 25 years age, we get 17-year age, we get 32 years age, 47-year age, 62 years age. In this way, we are getting the ages. Number of rooms we see, there is 1 room, there is 2 room, 5 room, 4 room, 3 room, 2 room, 1 room. In this way, we are getting. These two variables we have. Whenever we get the data, if you have the numeric data, we have to discriminate the data in the discrete and continuous. We have to divide and first confirm which one is the discrete or which one is the continuous data. This bifurcation is very, very important. So can someone tell me how we could how we could see that, judge that it is a discrete data or continuous data? How do we recognize it? Which one is continuous or which one is discrete? It is the raw data. We will get the data in this way in the data frame. How do you determine that the data is discrete or continuous. Age is continuous, correct? Room is discrete. Why? I'm asking why. How did you guess it?
Because they cannot be like, for it to be continuous, there cannot be like 1.1 room or 1.5 rooms, whereas age could be categorized as 18 years and 2 months, 5
Yeah,
days, something like
correct.
that.
Correct. Okay. Someone else? Yeah. Okay. I explained you that. You are right. But there are one thing by which we could use it. We could see the unique values. How many unique values are here? If you see the unique values in age, so you will get so many unique values. Right? Not very few. Suppose we have a data of 1000 rows, or we could say the 100 rows only. Okay, 100 rows data we have. So we will get the unique values 60, 70, 40, 35. This number of unique values we will get here. 18s maybe many times, 25 maybe many times. So there may be, and the 100 unique values also. There may be more than. Okay, so it is the up to 100 unique values we could get here. But in the number of rooms, see, you get very few unique values. You are getting the unique values like maximum 5 rooms are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are the very few unique values we are getting here. So whenever you get the few unique values, then it is called a discrete data. Understand? If there is few unique values, then it is discrete data. If there is many unique values, then it is continuous data. Understand? So when you get the discrete data, then convert this variable in factor. Okay. Whenever there is a discrete data, you discriminate it, you find that it is a discrete, then you convert them in factor. Okay. The form of that data, basically it is a numeric. You will get the numeric form there. So you convert this particular in a factor, not this. If it is continuous, don't do anything with that. Okay, so that is the first classification. So now you are able to understand what is discrete and what would be the continuous. Is there any doubt? Yeah. The discrete we could write in this way. Sometimes you have seen in the books when you have studied the statistics, the discrete variables we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms. There are 22 have one room, 25 have 2 rooms. In this way we are getting. But this continuous sort of data we convert in the class interval in this way. And here we write the frequency whatever we have. So it is the data we get, but in the data frame we get in this way. We don't have to convert them in the class interval. That is not necessary to convert these in. We don't have necessary to, but just convert them in factor if you have the discrete one. For the continuous, we don't have to do anything. It would be the same. We don't have to do any changes in that class. Is it clear to all? Okay. Now we see the second classification. According to nature. According to nature, if you see, we have the classification. One is nominal. Second one is ordinal. Third one is our interval. And fourth one is what I have explained you, that is not here. The fourth one is our ratio. What is nominal? Wherever the naming you have, it is nominal. The categorical data, we could say, the categories are there. Okay, like if you have a column gender, then you have the categories like male, female, and transgender. This is a nominal data. If you have the name of cities, so you have Mumbai, Indore, no? And Delhi. In this you will have that name of the city. These are all the nominal data. Okay. What is ordinal data? It is some order, but there is no fixed interval. Okay. We generally use Likert type scale with this. Okay, we use Likert type scale. Why I am not writing Likert scale? You see the scale, if you see the scale, there is a centimeter, or you will get the 0 and 1, there is a fixed interval, and 1 and 2, there is a fixed interval. In the any scale, you will get the same interval between the two integers or whatever. But here there is no fixed interval, so we write the Likert type scale, not the Likert scale. People do this mistake. They say it is the Likert type. It is the Likert scale, not it is Likert type scale. Okay. So what does it Likert type scale? It maybe starts from the 3-point Likert type scale, 4-point, 5-point, 6-point, 7-point Likert type scale we use. Here I am giving one example with the 5-point Likert type scales. So in the 5 points, you see I am using a scale like the strongly disagree, disagree, not certain, agree, strongly agree. So I am giving some number to this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It is an order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But there is no fixed difference between the fixed interval between 1, 2, 2, 3, and 3, 4, and 4, 5. I explain you why it is not. Suppose there are 3 employees working in an organization on the same post. The employees are A, B, and C. Three employees we have. And the management decides to give the increment of rupees 3,000 in their salary, monthly salary. At that moment, all A, B, and C are strongly disagree with this small increment in their salary. And they took some objection on this. And then management decided to add some rupees 2,000, and the increment would be by 5,000 rupees, not total. So with this 2,000 increment, we see what happens. There is strongly disagree, not certain, agree, strongly agree. Mr. A is now shifted from strongly disagree to strongly agree with this small 2000 rupees extra increment. And Mr. A. Mr. B shifted to, you switched to with this 2000 rupees to not certain. And Mr. C just switched to disagree. You see the amount is same, but interval is not same. Okay. Interval is not same. So this sort of data is called ordinal data. Okay. And there is no fixed interval between 1, 2, 2, 3, and this is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is a different 2000, which is the interval value, and we are getting this not on the same. So therefore it is called ordinal data, and it is a Likert type scale. Whenever we have ordinal data like this, or we have an item which is in the ordinal data form or the Likert type scale, and we have the value like this 5, 4, 1, 2, 1, 5, 5, 4. In this way we are getting this data. Do not compute mean for this sort of column. When you compute the mean, it might be in some decimal, okay, between 1 to 5. It may be 3.6 something, and it may be. So this, if there is no fixed interval, where you will put your 3.6 value? Do you have place or point for this? No, we don't have point for this 3.6. So don't do this sort of activity when you have Likert type scale. Suppose we have two questions, item 1 and item 2. We are asking about whether you want in a state some particular government, some particular party like BJP, suppose, in the state. First question. Second question, BJP in center. There are two questions we are asking to the persons. They are strongly disagree, whatever this 5-point scale, they are giving the response. Then we are testing the hypothesis in the opinion of the persons are, whether there is significant difference or not. Okay, in the opinion of the persons regarding state and the central government, they have the same opinion or not. So we conduct some test, or don't make mistake to use the t-test on this, because t-test or the ANOVA or the g-test based on group mean. So first we have to find the mean, then we have to calculate it. So as I explained you, we could not take the group mean of this, item 1 mean and item 2 mean. We could not take the mean of that. So at that moment, we have to conduct the non-parametric test. Understand? So non-parametric test we could conduct, Wilcox test, we could conduct Mann-Whitney U test, Kruskal-Wallis test. In this way, you could conduct the test. Is there any doubt? Someone want to ask something? Yeah. Someone want to ask something? Subham, I will explain it again. Okay. I will show you something. Are you getting this screen on your window? Okay. So I will explain you in detail this thing. Okay. If you have these items, as I explained you, item 1 and item 2 item, these are the observations, these are the responses we get from the respondents. Whatever the respondents we have, 100,000, whatever. If we conduct in this way some study, we are taking directly question 1 and question 2 in the hypothesis, or we are directly calculating on this column, then it is called Likert type scale. And it is called ordinal data. Not a ordinal scale. It is a ordinal data. Ordinal is not any, there is no scale like ordinal. Ordinal is a data type. That is not a scale. Central tendency, we will measure here median or mode. Mostly we use the median. Okay. Dispersion we could use here for the dispersion. We could use the range. We could use the quartile, interquartile range. What we say, IQR. Okay. We could also use mean absolute deviation through median. Okay. I will explain you this later. Association, we could use the Kendall, tau, B or C. And the non-parametric test, we could use the chi-square, Mann-Whitney test, Wilcox test, Kruskal-Wallis test you could apply here. In this way. Whenever you have, suppose these 4 items belongs to one factor, like the first question is related to the cleanliness in mess of the school. Second is the quality of the chapati. Third is the quality of the vegetable. Fourth is the service in the canteen. So these are all questions belongs to one factor, which is called the food or the mess. We could write the name. So this I am. Or if we are working in this way horizontally, then we could take the score of this. A score we could take either we could take the sum of this or we could take the mean of this. So here we could find out the mean in this way horizontally. We could not find out the mean in this way. You have 4 questions. Let's suppose here 5, 1, 2, 3. So you could find out the mean of this. Okay. So here is 11 and divide by 4. We have the 4. So it is 2 point something whatever 4 to 3 4 7 28 4.7 2.7 something like this you will get here 2.7. Similarly, you will get here something like 3.6, 4.5, 1.2. In this way you are getting. Okay. So it is the mean score we are taking here. We could get the sum score also. It depends on you, what you want. Generally, mostly we take the mean score. So at this moment, this scale, this score. So you see scoring of Likert scales. So now it is the Likert scale. We are scoring. This is Likert scale, but this is Likert type scale. Understand the difference between Likert scale and, because it is a scale now. There is uniform interval. Understand? So then it is an interval scale now. Likert scale basically an interval scale. It has the measurement, central tendency measurement. We could compute mean here. We have computed already. Dispersion, the standard deviation we could take. Association, Karl-Pearson association we could use through this. And the parametric test we could apply T-stage regression and or whatever. But one more thing is there. If you have to through this mean score, you want to explain about the how many are agree, how many are disagree with the mess overall. And these the individual questions were about the cleanliness, about the service and this on. But overall, how many students are agree, disagree, not certain of the performance of the mess? Then how do you consider these 2.7 as most strongly disagree or uncertain? 3.6 uncertain or strongly uncertain or agree. How do you determine this? So there was a traditional method which is very, very unscientific method. I have seen in the many of the research paper I have got this scoring. And they are asking that if the mean is, this mean is between 0.01 to 1, it is strongly disagreeing. So first thing, if you have a data starts from 1 and end with V, the minimum value is 1, the maximum value is 5. How one can get the mean below 1? Can you get the mean below 1 of this data, which starts with 1 and ends with 5? Can someone get the mean less than? So this is totally unscientific. Don't do this sort of demarcation. Okay. So that is very important thing we have to keep in our mind. So don't take it. The traditional method was being used. Now there is another method which is called the range max method. It is not name given by me to this, but it is generally they use this method without any name. And it is scientific. I have also done this way. And then I saw in some research paper, I got, oh, the same method I have applied. So what I have done, I have used the maximum minus minimum. I have got the range, the maximum here. You could also use for the 7.6 point, whatever. So 6 minus 1, yeah, you could use there. And I've shown the whole technique how to find out this. So it is a 5-point Likert scale. I have given this 5.5 minus 1 is 4, which is the range. And this range I am dividing by the maximum value. Maximum value is 5. So I am dividing this 4 by 5 and I'm getting 0.80. Now what I am doing? In the lower limit on the minimum value, I am adding 0.80. This ratio I am adding. And I am getting the upper limit 1 to 1.80. 1.80 is my upper limit. Then I add again 0.80 to this. I get 2.60. Okay. Then I again add 0.80, I get 3.40. Again I add 0.80, I get 4.20. Similarly, I get 5 at the final. 4.20 plus 0.8, I will get the 5. You see there is a similar class intervals now I am getting there. See if the value lies between 1 to 1.0, 1.80, up to 1.80, then it is strongly disagree. And if the values lies between 2.61 to 3.40, it is not certain. So you see 2.7 is not certain. I change the color and write this. It is not certain. 3.6, you see it is here. It is agree. 4.5, it is strongly agree. 1.2, it is strongly disagree. Okay. So in this way, you could make a graph of bar plot of this or whatever you want to show in a table form or whatever you could use it. Is it clear to you all? Or here you could apply any test on the scoring. You have another factor like the sports and the few questions making the factor like sports. So now you could take any T test or whatever in these two scores. Is there any doubt? Yeah. So it was all about the ordinal scale. Now I explain you more about some other interval and okay, I will give one research paper is there, but not with the name of range max method. Okay, the name is given by me only. The same procedure, there is a research paper for this. I have seen the last month. So I could share that thing somewhat. Okay. Now we see now we are well understand about the ordinal data. Now we see the interval ratio scale. there is a interval and ratio. Understand? And there is a difference of 0 only. In the interval, there is a pseudo 0, and in ratio, there is a real 0. So what is pseudo 0? I explain you. In the temperature, if you see the degree Celsius, what does it mean by 0 degree Celsius? It means there is no temperature. Does it mean? Yeah. Does it mean there is no temperature? 0 degree Celsius? It doesn't mean there is no temperature. Okay. So it is the 0, we have given one value where the water starts to freeze, freezing starts of water. That is the 0 degree Celsius. Okay, below 0 degree, there is also some temperature, -4, -45, whatever you see. So this 0 is not real. It is a pseudo 0. If someone is in my pocket, there is no money. If I say there is 0 rupees in my pocket, what does it mean? My wallet, there is 0 rupees. What does it mean? Yeah, Anita, would you like to ask something? You could unmute yourself and ask me something. What do you want to ask? Empty, no money, correct. Similarly, if we talk about the marks in some examination, if somebody get 0 marks, what does it mean? No marks. Okay. Or in our Hindi language, we say the anda. You got anda. Okay. That is the 0. It is a real 0. 0 is one property. If you multiply this 0 with any number, the result will become 0. If you divide any number by 0, you will get infinite. This is the property or the characteristic of the 0. Please unmute yourself. So I think, but if this 0, we are multiplying, suppose with pressure, I don't know what is the formula of that. I don't know. I'm just multiplying with the pressure. Whether it will become 0, it will not be 0. Because this 0 is pseudo, or it doesn't have that characteristic of real 0. It may convert the result in 0. So we could not do mathematical operations or arithmetic operation with this pseudo 0. Then what we will do? If you have to perform the arithmetical operation with this column, if there is a 0, then what we will do? So I will explain you what we have to do with this sort of column. First, we see the unique values. Okay, you know already about the unique values now. If there are very few unique values, you convert them in factor, and then you could use this in a different way. Okay, you convert them in dummy variables, and then I will explain these all things later. We could do that thing. If this is a continuous, there are so many unique values, so it is a continuous. In the continuous, whenever you have 0, then what you will do? Then you will do one thing. You will make class interval. And one thing should be remembered. See, the upper and lower limit, there must be 0. You don't make in this way, -5 to 5. So the 0 is just in between them. So it will not work. So always keep 0 in the upper limit and the lower limit somewhere. Okay. And then what you do, you find out the mid value of this. When you find out the mid value of this, so you will get here minus 2.5. Mid value, we add this 2 and divide by 2. 0 plus 5, 5 divided by 2, 2.5, it is 7.5, and the rather 20.12.5 in this way. So now we'll not get any 0 here in this column. Will you get the 0? No. Now you could apply arithmetical operation on this. Understand? So this is the technique to work with a column having pseudo 0. So this is the only difference in the interval and ratio scale. Both are same. There is a difference of 0 only. Okay. So is there any doubt in this part? Second classification we have seen. Now we see the third classification, which is the last one. According to function, which we use in R and Python. So we will study perspective of R here. One, we have a numeric. Second, we have a character. Third, we have, I will write the character in a proper way. Character. Third one is logical. Fourth one is raw. And it is a complex. So we will not work on this in the data analytics. It is the machine learning part we use somewhere in the depth. So we will not discuss this here. We'll just discuss the numeric, character, and logical. So numeric, it may be integer. It may be double. Double is the decimal number. So this is all called the numeric. Or in the numeric variable, you could perform the arithmetical operation. In the character, if we write the name of someone like Delhi, this is a character. If you write any number in double or single quotes, whatever, it would be a character. It will work like a character. And we could not perform arithmetical operation with this 5. It is a character. In the logical, if you see, there is a binary, basically, yes and no, or the true and false, basically true and false. So it is the logical. It is the conditional statement. If I assign x is equal to 5, then I ask x is greater than 7. So what would be the response of this? Yeah, someone tell me. What would be the response of this? I have assigned x is equal to 5. Then I am asking x is greater than 5. False, correct. Correct, false. Sorry, when you apply the range expansion quotient. First we change it to QS ask about me about this ordinal data. First we convert, we make the score of that, find the score, compute the score of it. 4 or 5 questions, 2 questions, 3 questions you have. Horizontally we compute it, mean, and then it will be an interval square now, and we could use it. Okay, both are same. Interval and ratio, there is only the difference of 0. If you say the interval, it's okay. If you say the ratio, it's okay, no problem. So it is all about the logical. So this was all about the classification of data we have studied. I think you have got it properly. You could, I think you are understand this thing, the classifications of the data. Is there any doubt some of you could ask to me? Yeah. Okay. I think all of you have got it properly. Hmm? And then we have to study about the measure of central tendency. Just just a moment. Give me 1 minute. Mr. Mukesh, are you there? Yeah, just a moment. You wait. I call to Mr. Mukesh and tomorrow I think there will be off for this session, and then day after tomorrow it will continue because I have to go somewhere. I am out of station tomorrow. So I just called to Mr. Mukesh. So okay. Udit Yadav is asking interval and ratio have the same some confusion. There is no confusion about the interval and ratio scale. Whenever you have the real zero, then it is ratio. Or whenever you have the pseudo, but we say it's a scale something. Okay. Both together is called the scale data. Okay. So what you have to determine that whether it is pseudo or the real zero. In the temperature is the only physical quantity I have seen where we have this pseudo zero. I don't have in knowledge any other physical quantity which has the pseudo zero. Okay, so it is same, almost same. Likert type scale we transformed in an interval when we interval or ratio both are same. You don't be confused with this. Only the zero is difference there. Okay, you could say it is the interval also. You could say the ratio also. You have to. It is basically a scale. So Likert type scale we convert in. We take the mean score and then it is called the Likert scale. Okay, after getting the score, it is called the Likert score scale, and then it is the interval scale. Understand? The interval and the ratio both are the same thing. Generally, we say the interval scale. We don't use the word ratio scale. Okay. In the interval bus, you have to keep this in mind that whether it is zero is real or pseudo bus. According to that, you have to perform. Now, don't confuse in the interval and the ratio too much. Yes, sir. It's over to you.
Yeah.
Sir, tomorrow I think there is a off. We have to keep.
Okay.
Because I am out of station tomorrow.
All right. No problem.
Day after tomorrow it will be continued.
Oh. So all the participants, please make sure that tomorrow the class will be off. We will be continue from the Thursday. So what we can do, the gap of tomorrow we will be cover maybe by extra hours in the other classes, or maybe we'll make an extra one day, right? So we will be next class will be on Thursday 10 a.m. We'll join 10 a.m. So all of you that can make a note on your calendar that 10 o'clock Thursday you can join back. Any other queries, any other questions? We are here to support you. And study material will be updated maybe by today evening. We will be sharing with the study material link, video link to all the paid participants who has paid for the priority participant payment, which is around 1,000 rupees only, roughly around $14 to $15 for international participants. So we will be mail you on the mail which you have filled the form of the certificate form. Some question coming, just a second, let me check. Do we have to pay for yes, the certificate fees you have to pay. This is as I already mentioned that the program cost is around 18,000 rupees, which we have already waived due to the pandemic. So we have just kept the certificate fees, and you can say it's like operational cost to maintain the workshop, because any workshop which we run, it costs that there's a lots of people behind the scene, so we have to maintain the operation. So we have kept this small fees just to maintain that, nothing else. So 1,000 rupees is not a big deal. I think we all can afford for such a wonderful session. And we are trying to help maximum people. From last 3.5 months, we made it free. All the tuition fees has been waived off from the Cypher Analytica from last 3.5 months, and we'll be keep continuing at least till 2 more months. We have planned, not yet finalized. Maybe if we need to extend, we'll extend. Otherwise, we will be do it till September, October. Okay, so all of you, please join on Thursday, 10 a.m. You all have the email ID of us. Please have any queries, mail us. And also we will be sharing you the WhatsApp link, so you can join on the WhatsApp link on Thursday. And Thursday we will be sharing the WhatsApp link of this workshop, so you all can join the WhatsApp link, so that you have any queries, question regarding the workshop, or any help you need during the installation of R, or any technical help need, you can just help. We can help there also on WhatsApp. All right, thank you very much. And once again, those who enjoyed the session today, you can clap for sir. You have a button on your screen. There is a reaction button where you can thumbs up and clap for sir, because I know that all of you must have learned a lot today itself, and next session will be very important. So thumbs up and clap for sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, thank you very much. Lots of thumbs up and clap coming, sir, for you.
Thanks everybody, and
Thank you.
have a nice day. And we
Yes,
meet
yes,
day
yes.
after tomorrow at 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think some participants are that have done previous workshop also. So just to remind you, sir has also said that we are also having other workshops. You can follow our Facebook page, where you will see that updated workshops. That upcoming workshop, you can join there and get benefit out. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.